and welcome back to the Cole's Custom Shop podcast. I am your host, Isaac.
My name's Wade Black.
And today we're going to keep on talking about trucking and farming and models and the real thing and just kind of the culture around both of them and see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess we could start off with where were we today and what did we end up doing today?
Yeah, so today we went and we checked out the vintage tractor pulls at Lacombe here in East Central Alberta. I had a good time, check out some cool tractors and got to walk through a few model show sale kind of deal, and yeah, had a good time. Watched the tractors, had some burgers, nice slice of pie, full meal deal.
Yeah, it was good. It was lots of fun. And saw some old tractors that we'd never seen before, some that we looked at and had no idea what they were.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
And fell victim to the model toy show.
Yeah. Yep. Happens to the best of us, right?
Yeah. I guess, Wade, we could start off with what you ended up buying as your
so this is
impulse buy, you called it?
Yes, this is my impulse buy for the day. So it's a 359 Peterbilt with a tandem axle cattle pod on the back. Gonna add it to my little collection I got going of 1970s kind of era trucks. So I got a few W9s and a whole collection of stuff from that era that I plan to put together on a full scale model scene. But
this is some cab overs in that collection too.
Yes, Peterbilt cab overs. I think I got at least one Kenworth in there, International Freightliner, whole slew. But this is the latest addition to that. Yep.
Yeah, it's a pretty sweet truck, and you bought it new in the box.
New in the box, DCP of course.
Yeah, and I ended up buying a couple things. First picked up this International Lone Star. So one of the new Internationals with kind of a different style long nose. I don't actually have one of those in my collection until today, so I was excited about that. And yeah, it was a little cheaper brand. It's a Maisto design. So picked that guy up. It's still nice though. Opening hood, rubber tires, has show fenders on it. And then also picked up a Versatile front wheel assist tractor. An older one, it's the Bueller Versatile paint scheme. So it's the red and cream, as opposed to now they are the red and yellow, or red, yellow, and black, kind of those traditional Versatile.
Yeah, kind of their throwback or whatever.
Yeah. Apparently they did that, those throwback colors when they were restoring Big Roy. So for those of you who don't know, Big Roy was Versatile's answer to high horsepower, high traction, high capacity tractor back in the day. It is an 8x8 tractor.
Yeah.
Where it pivots, it articulates in the middle, but it has 4 heavy duty axles. And big engine in the rear, and was actually spec'd out for construction work.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. That was kind of the target. It was basically Versatile's answer to Big Bud's 747 tractor, which is the biggest ag tractor in the world. And it's quite famous. But Versatile was competing with that. And that one was also spec'd out to pull rippers and dirt scraper pans in California.
Gotcha.
And so, this was kind of spec'd out a little more towards construction, but also with farming in mind. But it was a concept, prototype, one-of-a-kind tractor that never took off. They were advertising it, but they never actually made a bunch of them.
Right.
So,
Because I believe there's only one surviving
Yeah.
prototype, correct?
Exactly, and I don't even know if there was any pieces of any others.
Mm.
But it's incredibly unique tractor. It's in a museum in Manitoba, Canada. Couple hours, I think an hour or two drive from the Versatile factory.
Gotcha.
And yeah, a lot of unique features on that. Even has a TV in the monitor, so it's the first. It wouldn't even be digital monitor. First TV monitor. It's like an old style TV because it actually had a camera in the back because you couldn't see because it's a rear engine.
Right. It'd be just impossible to see back there.
Yeah, and it's just a huge monstrous tractor. But when Versatile was restoring that, the actual factory itself restored it for the museum.
Right.
They came out with, they were going to do just a short run of heritage paint scheme tractors for their modern four-wheel drive tractors. And people loved it so much that they decided, let's do all of them that way. Let's kind of remind people these are the same tractors that they used to have. Because around here in Western Canada, Versatiles were made in Manitoba. And it is kind of, back in the day, what would you say, like the 80s, that was kind of their heyday?
Yeah, and there's lots of them around. Like lots of guys had them.
Mm-hmm.
They were often called cheap horsepower because they're pretty simple machines, right? Which is good for liability reasons. But yeah, they got the job done for not a lot of cost, so they're quite popular in this part.
Yeah, and especially when you're pulling big equipment, big fields, bigger farms. They say, like, I think it was like 50% of farms in Western Canada had a Versatile tractor. And they really competed on that four-wheel drive market. Really the only ones that could get anywhere close to them would be Steiger. And even that, they were cheaper than Steiger, and they were cheaper than John Deere, but outperformed the John Deeres.
Right.
So the ironic thing is, Versatile has been through a lot of changes. So it was, the original paint scheme, original owners, and then they were bought out by Ford. And then Ford purchased New Holland. So then we have these blue Versatile tractors that they started out as blue and white, sorry.
Right.
And then eventually in the 90s were just all blue and said, Ford, New Holland, Versatile, like all three names on them. But through all that, they were still made in the same factory by the same people in Manitoba, Canada. And then when Case and New Holland came under the same ownership, they were forced to sell off certain assets so they didn't own too much of the market and have a monopoly.
Right.
And they decided to sell off the rights to Versatile, which I believe it was purchased by the factory workers themselves as a collective ownership.
Interesting.
Something like that. I heard something like that. And so then they owned it and brought Versatile back, and that's where you get the Bueller Versatile look with the cream and red color.
Right.
From the blue. And then eventually they got bought out by a Russian company where they are taking Versatile tractors made here, selling them in Russia under a different brand name. And then they even brought a couple of those combines that they were making over in Russia over here under the Versatile brand name.
Yeah, I believe the brand name was Rostelmash.
Yeah, that sounds correct.
So, and I think like Rostelmash had quite a selection of combines. Was I think one of the more common ones. I think they had stylish shoppers too, but I think the combines are the one thing that did make it over here. I know Versatile had sprayers too. I don't know if that was its own thing or.
I don't know, because that was kind of it didn't last very long. Whatever it was, it was rebranded real quick or what.
Like they might have bought it from someone else, or they might just put their own together. I'm not sure, but
I'm not sure about
yeah,
that.
the combines they had sold quite a few in the first little bit for being what essentially was a newcomer to the market
Mm,
completely, mainly for affordability reasons again.
yeah.
But they ended up not being terribly successful. We had one neighbor who had one who didn't have real great luck with it, but yeah, that Rostamash, I believe, was the name of the company over there. Actually, they were really cool combines because they had the rotating concave inside. So
Oh.
the cylinder of the combine, I believe, um, turned, and then the cylinder around it turned the opposite direction. So it actually, as a combine, had the most cleaning area out of any combine because
Right,
it was
because
this
it's double.
360 degrees
Yeah.
essentially. So obviously stuff would fall out the bottom instead of the top, but still, it was some good points to it that were pretty impressive, but overall just ended up not working out really
Yeah,
well.
as well as you take into the factor of parts availability,
Yeah, there's always that.
which is huge and a huge factor when buying stuff. And but yeah, when they went back to that classic paint scheme, it was kind of to remind people, hey, these are the exact same tractor that your grandpa had or your father had. Um, that you know is more affordable than the John Deere and the Case, which is the Steiger, um, and still a great tractor. Still, all the modern features, but more simple than the Case and John Deere.
Yeah, they definitely played to that strength from the past of being simple because I believe it was like actually I think it was either a Cummins or a Caterpillar motor. I think some of the front wheel assists had Cummins motors in them, but it might have had a Caterpillar motor, like fairly simple parts. I believe same with the transmission too, not 100%. Might have been a Cat transmission or something like that. But
yeah, and same with hydraulics, was all very simple, very accessible.
yeah, yeah. So pretty simple design. I think they had fairly good luck. Certainly with the four-wheel drive tractors, you see a few more of them
Mm-hmm.
around. The sprayers, like the combines, didn't do super great.
Yeah, and
They
then even the front wheel assist, like the model I got today, not
somewhat popular, but
somewhat
not.
popular. Of course, they're never going to be as popular as their bread and butter model, which is the four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And they have a tracked version of that too, a Delta Track,
Right. That's right.
which is their quad track equivalent. Um, which I actually have a model of both the wheeled and tracked versions.
Oh, really nice.
Picked those up at an auction a while ago, a couple months ago.
Nice.
But yeah, they're interesting tractors, and it's cool with the history. But today I picked up this one in the older Bueller Versatile, white and cream paint scheme to match one of the other ones that I have. And they don't make them anymore, even though it's not a toy that is that old at all. Um, and so yeah, I was able to pick that up from a dealer and got big plans to put some wide tires on it and pull a grain cart on a custom harvest crew, and it can match that four-wheel drive I have with the same paint scheme. And
because I think for model reasons, it looks like they have it pretty narrow, especially on the back end. Some wider tires would do it good.
Absolutely, and I seen one at the Agritrade Farm Show. When was that? This past November?
Yeah, that would have been.
Yeah, and it was modern paint scheme, newer one, but it had some wide LSW tires.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it looked beefy and it was good.
Nice.
So I'm thinking to do the same treatment, but to this model with the older paint scheme. And yeah, that should work out pretty good. But yeah, I guess it's no secret that I kind of lean towards versatile in my bias a little bit of, I like it. Our farm has always run it. Until recently when we got a John Deere, we were running versatile right up from like the first or second year of production. We got, a very early versatile that we still have, and it was on on singles, but 4-wheel drive articulating, and then got another one after that, and then eventually an 835, which was kind of that, I believe it was 80s, kind of that essential, when things were very, very popular. A lot of people have them. Saw one yesterday on the highway, actually, on a trailer.
Really? Yeah.
It was actually right in town. They were pulling through.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty wide load.
Yeah, it would be.
But nice 835 Versatile with a blade on the front.
Oh, yeah.
On a tri-axle lowboy trailer, getting pulled by a nice white, I think it was a Peterbilt 379.
Oh, yeah. Nice
truck.
Yeah.
But yeah, they, we had that, and then we got one of the Versatiles from the 90s, which was Ford Blue, just blue with not the white. Still have that and have been running that. But then, recently we got a John Deere. It would have been cool to get one of these Bueller Versatiles, but again, like what we said, parts availability.
Yeah. Pretty tricky.
That's a huge issue, and every small town has a John Deere dealership.
Yeah.
And John Deere is quite popular, and we have a lot of neighbors with the exact same tractor. It's tried and true. Everybody knows what it is.
Yeah, we're versatile. I think we only really have one dealer, and it's a good distance away. As most things are in this part of the world. But
we talked about that last time a little bit with why trucking is a different story up here than down in the States. You have a lot bigger distance between centers.
Mm-hmm. And we end up following, somewhat between some pretty major centers too. And I mean, you can get further into the boonies for sure, but we're definitely a little ways away from stuff. But actually we had a Versatile too growing up. I can't remember what model it was, as I was fairly young, but we had one too. I remember we, of course, nice and simple, didn't have the buddy seat, so we rode on the flipped over pail, and Grandma eventually was kind enough to get us a cushion to sit on too, but we bounced across a lot of acres in that, so it got the job done pretty good.
Yeah, I think I had the premium seating version of that, where I would lay on the front fender.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's because it's kind of, you're in the cab, it kind of goes up at an angle, and then there's a little window.
Yeah.
And so I could lay on my stomach and look out the window, or I could lay on my back and stare up at my dad. And so
I forgot that.
My dad kind of cleared stuff out from that area, because normally it's full of junk that you find and pick up.
100%.
And tools. So he cleared that, and then we were able to lay and sit down in there and ride on the tractor. But he also he didn't trust the door lock. It's an old tractor, it's not the greatest cab, and so he put a board on a hinge that he would flip up, and to go out the door, and then when you close the door, you flip that down to kind of keep us, as an extra safety feature. I don't know if you could get to like the door handle or what, or I don't fully remember.
Yeah,
but
if I remember right, it was it was just a metal rod that you could pull back. And probably pretty easy to pull, both purposely or accidentally.
Exactly. And other thing I remember about that tractor is riding in it with earmuffs on, and being a little kid. The earmuffs probably doubled the size of my head. But it was so loud and noisy and bouncy and stuff. And as a kid, you're also fascinated with like that suction-y sound of the earmuffs.
Yeah.
And all that. So then, I remember, just kind of bouncing around, have these giant earmuffs on in that old Versatile tractor.
Yeah. No, they were pretty good machine. And I mean, I know there's a lot of extras you could buy fairly easy, like Adam Jett had a hydraulic kit that you could put on like a secondary pump and a whole nother tank on the front, so you get higher flow out of them.
Oh, that's cool.
Of course, LED lights were easy because they're fairly standard lights. Pretty sure you could easily get a PTO package for the back too.
Yeah, and even you know, you get more modern. You can buy it with the PTO, or you can buy the PTO package and put that on yourself. And if you know, are decent, I seen it on YouTube that, you know, they say if you're, you know, pretty decent with wrenching and you can figure it out and follow instructions, that you can put one of those together in a day. And you know, that saves you some money from the factory. Or if you're buying a used one that didn't have a PTO,
right,
you put a PTO on it. They're also famous for having blades on the front. I see so many with blades on the front. Well, even today we passed that dealership, and there was one of the blue ones from the 90s.
Yep.
It had triples on it. It was really cool, and a great big blade on the front.
Absolutely.
And like our first one that we ever got on the farm, it has a blade on the front. And the one that was, you know, on the highway the other day had a blade. I think the one that my wife's uncle has, I think the blade's off it right now, but he has a blade for it that has been on it in the past. So, you know, very what's the word, utilitarian, like used for everything. You could upgrade things, you could put blades on the front. Yeah, even our blue one from the 90 came with a blade too. Yeah, because everything was simple, a lot of kind of retrofit kits and things like that, and very popular.
I imagine, like you say, they were very popular, and I think they're kind of tough and rugged, and guys got tired of them before they wore out, kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of one of those things where they have it hanging around as like, hey, I need something to push snow in the winter, so I'll go find a good deal on the blade, throw it all together, and you know, you don't want to sit in it all day every day for spring seeding, especially when there's nicer options available, but
you do want to keep it.
You know, it's handy. Put a blade on it, go harrowing, land rolling, whatever, and yeah.
And like everybody likes them. I mean, even in the model world, talking to the dealer I got this from, I bought lots of things from him over the years and talk about different stuff, and he just keeps bringing in Versatiles and keeps selling them. And it's not like John Deere or Case or New Holland where we have dealers around here that you can buy the toys from.
Right.
You know, it's a ways to the nearest dealer, and not all the dealers that have Versatile stock or sell a lot of the toys. And so this guy, he sells all brands of farm toys, but he places orders to the States and brings them in, and you know, gets kind of bulk deals and is able to sell these toys at farm shows and different things like that, and farmers markets. But he orders kind of as many Versatiles as he can because he keeps selling them. His guys, even if they're, you know, a John Deere guy or a Case guy or whatever, they like the Versatiles because, you know, it's a big tractor, and the old ones, you know, everybody had them when they were young. They remember running them on the farm, and the new ones are really cool, and the toys, like, it's something different. You know, I could have got some John Deere front wheel assist to pull grain carts on this little model custom harvest crew and been like everybody else. But if I have these two Versatiles pulling those carts, it turns heads.
Yeah.
And, you know, people think it's cool, and I like it.
Something unique for sure, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I mean, it looks good too with the red and green.
Yeah, just a little bit of contrast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something different.
Absolutely.
But yeah. Well, let's see. What we could go with this. Got some questions here for you, Wade. Do you want a question about kind of the model world and the toy world and collecting, or do you want a question about the full life-size thing?
Surprise me.
Okay. If you could have any replica made and money was no object, what would you want?
Actually, I have a really good answer for this one.
I don't even know what it is.
Yeah. So many years ago, my dad used to have a self-loading bale truck. So custom built deck and then a pup as well. So he'd cruise around fields and pick up these bales, self-loading, unloading. Really cool truck to watch work. And of course, I was quite young when we had it. Like he bought it probably when I was 2 or 3 years old. Kind of in that drought, 2002, 2003.
Right. But he bought it as a regular truck, right?
Yeah, so it used to be a car hauler with a small bunk on it, small rubber, all that sort of deal. Took and put bigger rubber on it, took the bunk off. It was a 2000 International 9900 with an ISX in it, I believe. But yeah, nice black and burgundy deck on it, and then we had a custom built pup too. Dad had bought just the Triton axle, and had the deck built at the same time. It had a custom hydraulic extending hitch. But I always thought it'd be really, really cool to have a model of that. It'd be very difficult to make. And actually, I'd always wanted get a larger scale one that's RC with all the actions and stuff.
And then everything, all the hydraulics work.
Yeah, I always thought that would be absolutely awesome. But it'd be very complicated to make, but it'd be a heck of a lot of fun. Even if it wasn't an exact replica, but even just to get all the functions right.
Something. Especially something that had all those functions of, because the real thing is complicated enough.
Yeah.
Let alone trying to make it work in, let's say, 1/64 scale, where you're moving the pieces without hydraulics, or in 1/16 scale with all the hydraulics.
Yeah,
that would be complicated. So many moving parts that have to work together.
It would be so cool if you could make it work. Get some nice round bales. It'd be absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Because I spent at that time, Dad, of course, did that all himself. Mom did the bookwork. Dad did the driving. We only did have a hired driver in it for a short amount of time, but Dad did 95% of it. But he'd spent a lot of time up in the Viking country, and he would be up there hauling, living on the holiday trailer.
Viking is the name of a town in Alberta.
He wasn't traveling back in time.
He's not going to Scandinavia, up into Viking country. Had to be careful so that his bales didn't get raided.
Yeah, that would have complicated the matter for sure. But he'd go up there and he'd work for a couple months in the wintertime living out of the holiday trailer, and we'd go visit him on weekends and stuff. But yeah, I spent a lot of hours in the passenger seat of that truck, kind of whenever I could, of course, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be really cool to have a model of that.
That would be a pretty epic model.
Yeah. How about you? You got one?
Oh, one.
Okay, pick one.
You know what? The thing that I've spent the most amount of time in, aside from just my daily driver car, you go with pickup trucks and farm equipment, all that would be our John Deere 9500 combines. Partially because harvest, you're pulling long shifts, so you spend a lot of time in there, even if it's only a couple months. But I don't know. I think it's hard to say exactly what I would want with a model of that, especially because I do a lot of customizing myself, so technically I could just build it.
Yeah.
Is a little bit of a daunting task of, oh yeah, I want to do this, and it's like, well, that's like a month, 2 months worth of work.
Depends how much detail you want too, right?
Exactly. But I think I would go with basically our harvest setup. So if we run 4 of those combines with 2 tandem grain trucks, and this isn't that unrealistic to have 4 of those in 1/64 scale with replicas of our grain trucks and like a full wheat field display. But I'd have them all detailed out. John Deere did make a casting of that combine. It's just kind of a general, that era, that
right,
kind of that range.
No specific model number.
Yeah, but that was back when 1/64 scale was black cab class. So that means, for those of you not familiar with some of those older toys, that means instead of being able to see, inside the cab, see the steering wheel and seat and all that stuff, that whole cab is one solid piece of black plastic.
Right.
Which can look pretty ugly.
yeah, and definitely, a little hard on the detail and realism and all that stuff.
But then again, when those were made and designed, they were not collectibles, they were toys.
Yeah, 100%.
And now, with the amount of detail we're able to get in that small scale, those are now, 1/64 scale is collectibles. Often they make a toy version and a collectible version, but still, it's kind of, things have come a long ways, and John Deere did announce that Ertl is going to release those combines, same casting, but with clear cab glass.
Oh, nice.
And an interior that's supposed to come out this month, actually.
Oh, really?
I haven't seen them anywhere. Maybe it's that you can pre-order them this month.
Could be.
But I was very excited about that. I've got a lot of other projects on the go right now. Excuse me. So I don't know if I'll get my hands on that anytime soon and do a setup with 4 of them, or even just get one of them. I'm not sure when I'll get around to that because I'm working on other projects, but
that'd be really cool, because I think, because we had a 9600, actually. We ran 2 of them, kind of the same era.
Yeah.
But I think harvest time is always, if a kid's going to get in running the equipment, that's when it's going to be, because there's that much more equipment to be run, right?
Yeah, and that much more crunch time. Of you only have a short window, so yes, it takes some time to teach them, and that can be annoying and all that stuff, but you want them to get comfortable and competent with it as quickly as possible, because there is more equipment that needs to be run, and if you lose one day, finishing harvest 1 day late could cost you tens of thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
Compared to getting it done before the snow comes.
And I mean, the other nice thing is too is that you train your kids young, and they ain't going nowhere. So they're not allowed to leave. Yeah, they're not allowed to leave. They make pretty good employees that way. You only got to train them once or twice or whatever, and they're there for quite a while, right? So, and I mean, any younger kid that wants to get in on that or is interested in that is over the moon to spend any amount of time in a combine, let alone running it.
Exactly.
And just
it is the big, it is the big dog on the farm.
Oh yeah.
Yes, a big 4-wheel drive tractor is technically bigger, but
and same like a sprayer. There's more. It's maybe more nuance,
more and more technology and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But the combine, not only is it the money maker, but it is the most expensive thing on the farm,
and the most pieces and parts that all need to work together and could go wrong very easily.
Exactly.
All that equipment spinning back there, you're picking up rocks, all that stuff you got to watch for, right?
Exactly. And even people wonder why is it such a complicated thing that always breaks down? and somebody told me that a car, just driving, um, not when it's revving up, but just normal cruising, is only using, I think, like 40% of its horsepower or engine load.
Right.
But a combine, just going normally, not in really thick stuff, not revving up, is using 95% of its engine load.
Yeah, I remember hearing that, like, well, when I was in college, we had the Student Managed Farm that the students ran.
Right.
We had a fairly new combine that actually had, on the screen, percentage of engine load. That year was really light, and we were still doing like 70% or whatever. Like, it's a lot just to keep all of that rotating equipment and all those, their fans and
It's
turbines.
more moving parts than any other piece of equipment, and even if
by a long ways.
You might wonder why, and it's just look at the name of the combine. The combine is a combination of things, and it was invented by combining a thrashing machine with a cutter.
Yeah.
Which we actually saw a thrashing machine demonstration today.
The OG combine harvester.
Oh, that was so cool. I haven't seen one of those since I was, I want to say 6-7 years old. And a lot of people, most people in North America never see that.
No, I haven't seen one, I don't think, in operation up until now, right?
Yeah. And it's pretty cool. It's a old piece of equipment back when tractors were pretty new, and they were using the same equipment from steam tractors up until gasoline powered tractors were still running a thrashing machine.
Because I don't think like a combine harvester as we know it today, I don't know if those are really around until 40s or 50s maybe, right?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna guess.
I guess some history for you.
Oh, you do, eh?
Yeah. So this is what my grandpa told me, that they, before World War II, they had thrashing machines, and in order to run a thrashing machine, you needed a full crew, and it would take a whole bunch of men. So they would go out and cut the wheat, stack it in bundles, fork it onto a wagon, bring that wagon in with horses or a tractor, and then you had 2 guys at a time forking the wheat onto the intake belt of the thrashing machine, and you'd have a tractor set up, and you do all that, and in order to have that operation running smoothly, you had a bunch of guys, and it was hard backbreaking work.
Yeah.
So it took all these men to do, was very labor intensive, and very in demand. And this crew would travel around from farm to farm. And they may have invented, this is the part I'm not sure about, if they invented combines before the war or not. But what I do know is they didn't become popular until during the war. Right. Because during the war, not only do you lose all the men that are off fighting, but you lose all the steel and rubber and everything that makes up farm equipment. All of that was reserved for the war. So whether it was combines that had been invented but not mass produced, those were turned into tanks and planes and trucks. And thrashing machines, you didn't have a crew to run them, and they were old technology by then.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did is they took, the government allotted just enough steel to produce 100 combines of a really good design. I believe they were Massey.
Mm-hmm.
And they could be run by one person. And these 100 combines if you were lucky enough to be able to purchase one, you were charged with this combine has to run and keep harvesting every day that there is ripe wheat.
Wow.
Which meant that 100 combines started down in Texas when the wheat ripened early, and as it kept ripening, harvested and moved its way north all the way into Canada. And 100 combines harvested all of North America during World War II.
Wow. That's pretty insane.
Mm-hmm. And that's where you get the harvest crew, because you have the truckers and the combine operators.
And really that system exists all the way to today, right?
Oh, absolutely.
There's still companies that do that.
And it also, it worked because they had a lot less, they didn't need as much labor to do it. And they had these 100 combines, which is pretty crazy that, these tiny little combines could do all that work of, both countries. That is that is the story. And there's a couple of those combines still around. But they're pretty rare, and it's more, they're not the prettiest, they're not the nicest combine, but they mean a lot in history. Right. They're very significant in that, kind of like what we saw today at the tractor show. There was a lot of really nice restored tractors, but I don't think any of those tractors that were there today mean historically as much as one of those combines. Although 80% of them look way nicer than those combines.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where some of that history comes from. And now, a combine is huge and, can cost anywhere. Like, what's the new John Deere X9?
Oh, they're well over $1 million. Yeah. And that's just for the combine without the straight cut header, which is basically standard equipment. You need one, right?
Yeah, so you can't really do much without it.
Unless you're going to run your, very expensive swather over everything, which you probably aren't. So, yeah, it's pretty incredible how far they've come. And, like, the cool thing is now, the latest John Deere combines, and even some of the previous models before that, but as far as setting them and changing all the settings and stuff, is all computerized. Right. Like, there's just cameras that shoot into the clean grain and, just measuring all this stuff.
Yeah,
and
all the different sensors.
Automatically just changes all the settings as need be. So it's come a long way. And then, you get in the cabin, it has like a fridge, and the seat has a massage function and heat and cool. It has Apple CarPlay in the screen. Like, way too fancy, probably.
But at the same time, it's like, well, that's one of the differences between farm equipment, and construction equipment. Construction equipment, the person buying the equipment is usually not the person that's going to be sitting in there all day. Farm equipment, the person buying that equipment is the person that's sitting in there all day.
It's pretty rare for it not to be that way.
Yeah.
It's becoming more common, but there's still a good chance that guy who's buying that equipment, if he's not going to spend all fall on it, he's going to go up there and sit in it when he goes to buy it and know whether that's good or not good or whatever. He's spent his fair amount of time in a combine for sure.
But even with, brand new combines being, $1.5 million, most of us are not running those. Most of us are running combines from the 90s and early 2000s.
Yep.
Nothing within the last 10 years usually.
Yeah, you're starting to see it's always kind of a chain, there's the one or two guys that have the newest of the new, and then there's the next guys down the chain that, pick it up after them, and then the next guys and the next guys. So I think, we figure around our farm that we're usually about number 3 or 4. Because our combines are about 2008, 2009 now. So,
But it wasn't that long ago that yours were, 97?
97, something like that. So we're, we're keeping up, we're stepping up, but you don't want to be the first guy. Well, maybe you do, but it costs a lot of money to be the first guy in the line, I guess.
It does. It does. But yeah, and then people wonder like, well, why doesn't everybody just be the second person in line? And it's because those combines are used so much and there's so many moving parts and so much engine load and so many things that can break and wear out, that after the first guy has run it for, let's say, 3 years and they trade them in for the brand new model, those other ones are like anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000 in parts and labor to fix and replace all of those wearing parts. And sometimes it's like even not much just in parts, let alone labor.
And they're still a fairly expensive machine, and of course,
and they're still a great machine. They just, the bearings need replacing, and all these rub points need replacing, and all of these things are worn out, and the metal itself is, a 1/4 inch smaller than it was, so you need to replace that.
And there's a long lineup of guys who don't want to catch that initial depreciation on a brand new combine, but they want to be number 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then there's a certain amount of demand for that also helps out the actual price of the machine too.
Exactly. As well as it's a lot of preventative maintenance. Because harvest is such a crunch time, like we said, one day can cost you so much money that because breakdowns happen so often, you are trying to replace parts as they're worn out beforehand rather than waiting for them to break, because if one part breaks, it'll be a chain reaction to everything else breaking, as well as you are pulling your mechanic maybe even off one of the other combines to go and fix this combine. And everybody's in that same predicament, so parts are harder to get, and you're in a real crunch time to get this thing fixed, because one combine down, even in a big operation, is huge, let alone a small operation where you're only running one or two. That's absolutely huge. So it's I would kind of say, that dream model or replica would be basically our combines, in full detail, to try and invoke some of those good childhood memories and teenage memories of, wow, this is a big combine, this is a big machine, this is not only the most expensive, the most complicated, the most prestigious machine on the farm, it's also, harvest is the one time you get to see results for all your work for all year. And you can store your grain and sell it later, or you can sell it right then, but either way you are getting paid in grain for your entire year once. Like
it's like having, you don't get instead of getting your 2-week or your month-to-month paycheck, that's just, you wait till the end of the year, and that's when it shows up. It definitely gives you a little different mindset on money.
Especially when you have big expenses the rest of the year. It's not like you're just living and you're just paying for your food and rent and stuff like that. You're paying
lots of money,
hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions for bigger farms to grow that crop before you get to that one payday. You're
paying for everything to grow that crop and keep it healthy. And the other risk of that too is at any point in time, a hailstorm or a disease or an insect outbreak could erase all of that money from history, really.
Absolutely.
So harvest is kind of, it's the end of that. It's off the field. None of that stuff can happen anymore. Now there are
things that can happen, but the biggest risk is over. It's this huge push to get it done with those combines. After it's done, it's this huge sigh of relief.
Big celebration. Everyone's a little bit more relaxed anyway.
And everybody you're working hard during harvest, and
you're working as a team too, which is
Yeah.
really cool. Because like seeding and spraying and all those other seasons, it's pretty much one person running the machine, and then a couple other people
kind of in support.
yeah, offering support, bringing seed, whatever, right?
Lunches,
water for sprayer and that sort of deal. Where harvest, everyone's in the same field and everyone gathers for supper at the end of the day. If you haven't experienced the tailgate supper at harvest time, you're not living. You got to give that a try at least once, right?
That is honestly my favorite part of harvest.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody asks what's your favorite season of the year? And I say, I like fall. Why? Because of harvest. Why harvest? Because of harvest supper.
Yep. Yep.
And my mom, like everybody else, kind of goes full out for harvest supper because everybody that's working in the field is working harder than any other time of the year, essentially, and appreciate a really nice meal.
Yeah. Sandwiches get old after a while, very quick.
And especially because the shift in harvest is different than the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of, in the night and the morning dew kind of makes the grain wet and harder to harvest. And sometimes if the wind's blowing and it's hot, you can harvest all night long, 24 hours. But most of the time, you can't really start turning combines till about 10 o'clock, maybe noon.
Yeah. Depending on the crop, too.
Yeah, depending on the crop. But often you can go till midnight or 2. You're still up before 10 and noon because you're servicing.
Yep.
Fueling, greasing, prepping everything.
Doing the fixing from the stuff you broke the day before.
Exactly. And all that stuff. But it's a long time, and I know, like, I was watching a video documentary about Custom Harvest Crew, and they said their supper meal marks the halfway point of their shift.
Yep, I believe that.
And so it's that much more, you're going into the night, you're tired at night, it's so much harder to harvest at night, you can't see, you're by yourself. You can't call somebody on the phone because everybody who has a 9-to-5 job is asleep.
Yep.
And you can't see the world.
Yeah.
It's dark. You're just by yourself combining, and
you do that for a month, 2 months.
Yeah.
And
so that good meal that fuels you up so that you can go the second half of your shift.
Yep.
Is huge. Getting to all these people that you talk with on the CB radio, from combine to truck to other combine to who's ever bringing lunch, all of that stuff, you get to actually be all together, and often, not always, but often get to share a meal together out in the field.
Yeah.
And it's pretty special.
Yeah, that's 100%. And I agree. Harvest or fall is always my favorite time of year. It's always that perfect, like, the weather's about right.
Exactly.
It's not too hot, but it's not too cold. Sometimes it could be nasty, and I mean, I love the color orange leaves in the fall. So fall naturally is my favorite, right? And like I said, harvest, like we were talking about earlier, that's usually the first machine you get in and you really have the opportunity to run by yourself.
Yeah.
Which is just so cool. It's so confidence inspiring and all that good stuff.
Yeah, as well as, like, for, those of us who aren't full-time farming, because there's that high labor demand during harvest, that's when, I actually get on a combine and run, not every year, but when I was in college, come home Friday after class, run the weekend shift, when everybody else is tired, so that they can go a little longer. And in high school, finish school, come home, switch out for the evening shift, and keep things going and kind of switch through people so the people going during the week can get a bit of a rest sometimes. Same with hired men. It's very common to have hired guys that are only hired for September, October.
And quite often they will be, those guys that found careers elsewhere, but
Mhm.
they still enjoy the farm, so they'll come back and help out in fall.
Yeah, often it's, guys that grew up on a farm and are working somewhere else that either their job is close enough or hours that allow them to help, or they're retired, or
That's
it's
pretty
young
common.
guys that are in college.
Yep.
So yeah, harvest is a special time, and yeah, that's why I would choose that for my kind of dream model, to something that can kind of spark those memories.
Yeah.
And like we talked about before, that's the whole point of this hobby, is to bring that good culture from the real thing, without the 20-hour shifts
Yep.
in a combine, to be able to have those good memories from harvest and from everything else, in a tangible form, like with models. And
That doesn't cost $1.5 million.
exactly. Like even like what we got on the table here, we got a couple trucks and a tractor and a couple trailers, and it's like, yeah, in real life, first of all, that would not fit on my kitchen table.
Yeah.
Second of all, that would not.
That'd have to be at least $1 million worth of stuff
I
right
would
there.
think so.
At least,
Yeah. And yeah, but we're getting pretty long on this one, but glad that you guys could join us. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments or send us an email. Here at Cole's Custom Shop, we're really wanting to kind of bring that culture of the real thing and the models together, and enjoying doing this podcast for you guys to listen.
Yeah.
So until next time, take care, and we'll see you again.
You betcha. Have a good one, guys.